Have you ever been in one of those like really high stakes situations where absolutely everything is just falling apart?
Oh, definitely. Total panic mode.
Right. The pressure is suffocating, the system you've relied on is completely breaking down, and everyone else in the room is just sort of freezing up.
Yeah, they just freeze.
And then you witness someone completely take over. They don't panic. They just quietly step into the chaos, take the wheel, and physically bend the entire situation to their will.
It requires a very specific, almost unnatural type of psychological hardwiring to do that. I mean, to not just survive a panic state, but to actually use that chaos as fuel.
Exactly.
Because most people default to self-preservation. A rare few see it as an opportunity for absolute control.
And that rare psychological hardwiring is exactly what we are looking at today in this deep dive. We are charting the meteoric and frankly completely unprecedented rise of 23-year-old Jude Bellingham during this 2026 World Cup.
It has been incredible to watch.
It really has. And to figure out how he's operating at this level, we're pulling from a massive stack of sources today.
A lot of different perspectives on this one.
Oh, absolutely. We've got tactical breakdowns and match reports from Goal.com and Al Jazeera. We have player profiles and post-game coverage from FOX Sports.
And we dug into some deeply granular statistical analysis from freetips.com too.
Yes, the data is wild. Plus, we're even pulling from a fiery, surprisingly analytical debate from the r/Champions League subreddit.
The contrast in those sources is incredibly useful. You have the cold, hard data of tournament football stacked right up against the very emotional, narrative-driven fan reactions.
Which gives us a much more complete picture of what's happening on the pitch and, in the culture.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to break down Bellingham's absolute heroics against Norway, the frankly bizarre locker room friction that it sparked immediately afterward with his manager, his completely unconventional path to football greatness, and ultimately the statistical showdown that is looming against Lionel Messi.
It is a massive lineup.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we have to start with that quarterfinal match against Norway.
We absolutely have to analyze the environment first, because the climate in Miami was dictating the tactical reality of that match just as much as the Norwegian squad was.
Whoa, Miami in July is brutal.
It is. You are dealing with sweltering 90-plus degree heat with this suffocating humidity.
Right.
Physiologically, that completely alters how a team can execute a high-pressing game plan. I mean, the nervous system fatigues faster, and the spaces between the midfield and the defense start to widen.
Because the players literally physically cannot close down passing lanes at their usual speed.
Precisely. They're just gassed.
And you could see that environmental fatigue affecting the English squad almost immediately, couldn't you?
Oh, within the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, they go down 1-0 in the first half, and it stems from a sequence that just screams mental exhaustion.
It was a very uncharacteristic mistake.
Right. Andreas Schilderup floats this cross in from the left, and Jordan Pickford makes this error. He inexplicably pulls his hand away, and the ball goes in off the post.
Goal.com actually gave Pickford a 4 out of 10 rating for that.
A 4 out of 10.
Yeah, noting that the mistake completely rattled his handling for the rest of the game.
And a goalkeeper's anxiety is highly contagious, isn't it?
It absolutely is. When your defensive anchor looks shaky, the backline drops deeper, which stretches the midfield even further.
And that structural breakdown was compounded by the fact that Declan Rice, the usual engine of that midfield, was battling a pre-match illness.
Right. Rice also got a 4 out of 10 rating because he was just running on fumes. He ultimately had to be subbed off at halftime.
So think about this scenario. The midfield engine is dead, the goalkeeper is rattled, and the climate is actively punishing anyone who tries to sprint.
It's a total structural collapse.
It really is like being in a group project where you're watching the presentation fall apart and one person just silently steps up to the whiteboard and flawlessly delivers the entire pitch from memory.
That is a perfect analogy.
Because this is the moment Bellingham decides to just hijack the narrative. He doesn't just score, he manages his physical burst with incredible efficiency.
Yes, the timing of his interventions is what's fascinating here.
Right before halftime, in stoppage time, Anthony Gordon finds him with a brilliant pass.
And Bellingham just drives into the box and drills the equalizer into the bottom corner.
But he isn't wasting energy chasing lost causes in the midfield before that, is he?
No, not at all. He is operating with an extreme economy of movement. He's preserving his explosive pace for the exact moments when Norway's defensive structure is compromised.
Which perfectly sets up the climax in extra time. It's the 93rd minute.
Everyone on the pitch is practically walking at this point.
barely able to breathe in the Florida humidity. And Morgan Rogers takes this speculative, honestly mediocre shot from the edge of the box.
It wasn't a great strike.
No. But Norway's keeper, Orjan Nyland, he spills it. The ball is just sitting there in the penalty area.
And Bellingham is the only player reacting at full speed.
Exactly. While the Norwegian defenders are flat-footed, just watching the flight of the initial shot, Bellingham is already making the run.
He anticipates the error before it even happens. He assumes Nyland will make a mistake, and he slides home the rebound for the 2-1 win.
Goal.com gave him a perfect 10 out of 10.
Which is very rare.
They called him an absolute superstar and noted he was in absolute control of everything.
He essentially grabs the entire nation by the collar and drags them into a World Cup semifinal.
Right. And in any normal scenario, the post-match press conference would be a total coronation.
You'd expect the manager to be up there singing his praises.
Talking about the indomitable spirit of his star player, yeah. But we get the exact opposite. We get intense sideline friction between Bellingham and Thomas Tuchel.
Tuchel's post-match comments were brutally critical, which took a lot of the press by surprise.
What did he say exactly?
He told media that it was a pure mentality thing, not a lack of commitment, but he criticized the team for being sloppy.
Wow.
He pointed out a lot of technical mistakes, explicitly stated they weren't fast enough, and ended his assessment with a very blunt statement. He said, "We were lucky today."
See, I really struggle with Tuchel's psychological approach here.
It's definitely controversial.
You have a squad of dehydrated, exhausted players who just orchestrated a massive emotional comeback to survive a quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Throwing cold water on them in front of the global press feels like a huge failure to read the room. Why not harness that emotional momentum instead of actively trying to kill it? Is it some brilliant motivational tactic to keep them grounded?
To understand that reaction, you really have to look at the mechanics of Tuchel's philosophy. He is a manager obsessed with positional play and control.
Right.
To a systemic purist like him, relying on a 93rd minute spilled rebound from an exhausted goalkeeper isn't a strategy. It's a lottery ticket.
Oh, that makes sense. So he felt they lost control.
Exactly. He was angry because the tactical structure he designed broke down and chaos took over. He doesn't want heroes. He wants flawless execution.
But Bellingham, who Fox Sports noted was completely gassed during his own interviews, did not take that criticism quietly.
No, he fired right back at his manager through the press.
He actually said, maybe he doesn't know what it's like to play in those conditions.
A huge statement from a young player.
And then he drops this fantastic line. He says, sometimes you have to win dirty.
That phrase, winning dirty, it's a fundamental truth of tournament football that systemic managers often struggle with.
Because you can't always play perfect football.
Right. You cannot play fluid, 1,000-pass, aesthetically perfect football in 95-degree heat against a low-block defense.
Yeah.
Survival requires a completely different skill set.
It requires improvisation and grit.
Which is exactly what Bellingham provided.
Still, the audacity of a 23-year-old publicly challenging his manager's tactical worldview is stunning. But it makes total sense when you look at their history, doesn't it?
Yes. Tuchel has historically been very tough on Bellingham.
He previously dropped him from the squad entirely, right?
He did. And he actually refused to guarantee his spot on this World Cup roster early on.
That historical friction is definitely the crucible here.
Tuchel demands players who are cogs in his machine. But Bellingham is fundamentally not a cog.
He is a gravitational force.
Exactly. And when you have a player with that much intense self-belief pushing back against a demanding manager, it forces everyone to ask just how much power this young player actually wields.
Which naturally bleeds into the broader cultural debate happening right now.
The legacy conversation.
Right. Fans are looking at a 23-year-old carrying his nation, defying his manager, and producing ultimate clutch moments. And they're asking, where does Jude Bellingham already rank in the pantheon of the sport?
And to contextualize that debate, we really need to examine the mechanics of his career trajectory, because his development path is entirely atypical for an English talent.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about how a normal prodigy develops, right?
Okay.
Like, say you're an incredibly gifted high school student. The standard move is to accept the Ivy League scholarship, take the safe route, and cash in on the prestige.
The expected path.
Right. Bellingham did the equivalent of turning down the Ivy League to move to a foreign country and build a startup from scratch, just to force himself to be uncomfortable.
Fox Sports actually calls it the uncomfortable path.
Because he debuted for Birmingham City at 16.
He did, played one single season, and they retired his number 22 shirt.
That is still crazy to me.
But instead of taking the standard, highly lucrative move to a top 6 Premier League side, he went to Germany at 17,
Joining Borussia Dortmund.
which threw him into a completely different tactical environment. German football is incredibly transition-heavy, highly tactical, and demands immense physical output.
And that uncomfortable environment forced an evolution. He became the Bundesliga player of the season.
And then, instead of returning to England, he signs with Real Madrid.
The ultimate pressure cooker.
He walks into the most demanding environment in club football, where the fans will literally turn on you after 2 bad passes.
And what does he do? He immediately wins La Liga, wins the Champions League, and assists Vinicius Jr. in the final.
It's worth noting, only 6 English players have ever played for Real Madrid.
Joining names like Cunningham, McManaman, Beckham, Owen, Woodgate, and recently Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Right. For Bellingham to arrive there and instantly become the talisman proves his psychological resilience. He actively seeks out pressure that would shatter normal prospects.
And that exact resilience is what's fueling a massive debate on the Ross/Champions League subreddit right now.
Oh, that thread was intense.
Very intense. Fans are passionately arguing whether Bellingham is already the greatest English midfielder in modern history. Specifically, they're comparing him to the golden generation.
Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, and Paul Scholes.
Exactly. And it's a fascinating comparison because it highlights the difference between club dominance and international efficacy.
The pro-Bellingham faction grounds their argument in cold data.
Right. Bellingham is already the 3rd highest World Cup goal scorer in England's history,
Sitting only behind Gary Lineker and Harry Kane.
The prevailing argument on the forum is that the golden generation, for all their absolute brilliance in the Premier League, notoriously cannibalize each other on the international stage.